I don't know about you, but if you've watched enough of these infinite banking videos, you're probably thinking, this stuff is confusing. There's a lot of BS here, isn't there? Um, and I think instead of calling it IBC, they should probably call it IBS because what they're doing is they're BSing you a lot. They make it confusing and hard to understand. They try to make the numbers all wonky and just convoluted to the point you wonder, is this even real? Is this even legit or is this a scam? And I'm here to tell you that infinite banking isn't a scam, although the way they talk about it can be like a scam because everything seems confusing or hidden. And they have to throw out cool little terms and different cute little names to make it seem like it's something more than it actually is. The only reason they do that is because they have zero confidence that their strategy works, that it's actually worthwhile. And so that's why they have to make it seem confusing. That's why they throw out all this little BS and terms at you, things that make it hard to understand, but make zero common sense. And so here's why I want to talk to you. I want to call this more like no BS infinite banking, right? We have three promises that we're going to give to you. Number one is that we actually show you the numbers when you have a consultation with us. So many times I've heard people come to us and they say, okay, Chris, like how many meetings do you need to do? Because I just met with this one person. We did like meetings, 5 meetings trying to understand how this works. And on top of that, not only did they do 5 meetings, but they didn't even show them numbers. They said, hey, well, we need to do an application first. And then after you're approved with the insurance company, then we'll show you numbers. I'm here to tell you that is a sales strategy and it's total BS. Okay. Total BS. That's a sales strategy trying to get you committed. Think about this. Let's put this in another light. If you were trying to apply for a mortgage, would you go to the bank and say, hey, I want to know what my rates are. Can you give me an idea of what the rates will look like, what my monthly payment will be? And of course, the banker will say, well, give us some information so we can run some numbers, right? But what if that bank said, you know what? No, actually, we need you to apply for this mortgage. And then right when you're about to close, then we'll tell you the interest rate and then we'll tell you the payment. Well, how are you supposed to know you have the best deal? How do you know you're not just going to walk through this whole process, go through all this hard work, and then you're like, oh, well, I got to back out? No. Most likely, many people, and I've done this in the mortgage business before, I've seen people do this where they go to their banker, the bankers change the interest rate at the last minute because they went through all that work. They end up getting ripped off on their interest rates. That's the same thing that many of these guys do in the life insurance industry. They are taught as a sales strategy to not give numbers, but instead tell you to go and do an application. And then once your health rating comes back, then we'll have hard, firm numbers. Although that's partially true, the truth is we can actually run numbers right here, right there. Now, the health rating might change, it might not, but usually we can get pretty darn close. Just asking you a few simple questions about your health history, we can pretty much know within a few dollars, if not exactly to the dollar, exactly what it should look like before you do it. And so the nice thing is, many of our clients come to us, they do one little short 30-minute, 45-minute meeting, they have the numbers and they say, makes sense, let's move forward because there's no mystery. So that's number one. Number one promise is we will show you numbers on those calls. Number two, what we'll definitely do is we'll make sure there's no funny math about it. I was hearing a story recently. There was one of my friends who's in the infinite banking world. He was watching some videos, and one of these groups out there that's been doing these YouTube videos as well. One of these groups said, "Hey, here's what bankers math is," and they try to show how the infinite banking policy is making hundreds and hundreds of percent more than what they would do normally. So they're making massive money with these policies. It's a no-brainer. Everybody should do it with these hundreds of percents returns. And when my friend questioned him on the numbers, he said, listen, I'm a fan of infinite banking, but I'm running these numbers and I'm not getting that. That's not the true return. So, and the person came back as a reply. It's like, that's normal math. What we're teaching is banker's math. Okay, guys, here's something for you. Math is math. It's the same. Just like when we tell you, if you can get a 3% line of credit and you're earning 5% on a policy, that means you make 2% to go on top of whatever rate of return you make on your investments. So if you do a real estate property making 10% a year, you're now making 12% a year. Easy math. That's simple math. I don't have to do all this banker's math to confuse you. But that's what they do to try to make it look sexy, to try to make it look like it's enticing. Because once again, they're doing something to screw you over. And that's why their numbers have to look all funny and crazy looking. There's no manipulation here. So, promise number two is there's no funny math. And then number three, our final promise is we will have the best numbers every time. Every time we'll have the best numbers. I'll tell you one of the things that drove me into this industry is I actually went and got an infinite banking policy about 15 years ago, back in the mid 2000s. I got a policy from a friend. Now, I was a financial advisor at one point, and I didn't claim to understand this stuff. But when I first learned about infinite banking and Nelson Nash, I thought, this is great. This is cool. I didn't totally understand how it worked, but I trusted my friend would do the right policy for me. And I remember I asked him, I said, hey, is there ways I can make this policy better, get better returns? His answer was, no, you can't. You'll pay taxes if you do. So I paid into that policy for 2 years. And after 2 years, guess what happened? I had no money in it. Well, the recession hit, 2008 came around. I couldn't afford to pay my premiums for year three. I had no money in there. After putting in $25,000, I lost the policy. I lost it. It was the most expensive ripoff. I mean, I would have been better off paying for a term insurance, right? That was horrible. I made it my mission at that point to see if it could be done better because I thought, well, that was a ripoff. Why did I even teach this to, not for myself, but why did I put my family in this situation? And why did I teach it to other people? Well, as I started to research, I found out he lied. He actually could have done it better, like I asked him to do initially. And so a year later, I came back to him. I said, I've run numbers. I bet you, I found out you could have done this better for me. And so we had this 2-hour debate, pass around numbers back and forth, because that's the thing. We like to prove things by the numbers back and forth. And guess what? His final answer, his final response to me answering all of his objections was, Chris, the reason I did that is because I cannot afford to cut my commissions. It was at that moment, that's when I said, I'm done. I'm not sending you a referral ever again. And I didn't because I knew that was that thing. Everybody was teaching the industry to do it like him. I tell you, there's still people I run into today that say you should only do base premium only, no paid up additions into your policy. We guarantee that you will get the best numbers, the highest cash value, not just around year one, but throughout the policy. So you have the most cash to leverage to be able to double dip on your investment returns. That is our promise. No funny numbers, no manipulation, no trying to commit yourself to anything before you even know what you're committed to. We're here to make sure you get the best numbers, the best cash, really cash on cash return, biggest bang for your buck on your infinite banking policy. That is what I mean by no BS infinite banking, is that you know exactly what the numbers are. You know it's up front. You're going to actually not be confused by it because it's going to be simple. It's just the way it is because it's done right. So the question is, do you want it done right? Or do you want to take the risk of maybe doing it wrong? Do you want to have to explain to your spouse of, oh, I got these policies, but they were a lot more expensive than I should have paid, like I had to do with my wife at the time. I don't want you guys to ever be in that place again. I want you to be able to say, man, this policy is so awesome. Look what I can do with it. And look what the money I can make. This thing is a no brainer. This is like a supercharged tax-free savings account. This is what I've always wanted. Why don't more people do this? I'll tell you why, because they're getting all the BS. And it's time for you to get no more BS. You deserve to get the best. You should have the best. And that's our guarantee, is that we're consistently getting the right numbers. Even if you're not meeting with me, my team does it all the same. There are other great infinite bankers out there that teach this stuff, but their teams don't always do the same because they have their conflict of interest in place where they might charge you more in commissions and more in insurance costs than you need to pay. You should not be doing that. You should be getting it straightforward. There should be no BS at all, and it should be in your best interest, not the agent's best interest. If you have more questions, or if you want to be able to figure out how you can get a policy for yourself, reach out to us and find us today at moneyripples.com.